Hey, welcome to Get Up and Teach. I'm Noelle Hoffmeister.
Kathy D'Alessandro.
We are all things education and emotions and how they come together. Today we have a really hot topic that I know you're going to lean in and be interested in. Today we are talking interested, upset, angry. We're not quite sure.
Yeah, we're just going to put it out there.
Out. That's right.
Let's see how it goes.
Remember that if you're throwing tomatoes, it's your screen, so
Right.
you might want to consider that. Today we're talking about math fact fluency. It's a super hot topic. Lots has been said about it. And today I'm just going to kind of pick Kathy's brain, since she is our math expert, and see what she thinks about it. So Kath,
Yes.
I know this answer to this question, but I feel like people would want to know, in case they don't know you.
Yeah.
How long have you been teaching? What's your experience? How did you come to learn to love math? Give us a basis.
I've been teaching over 20 plus years. I've taught city, suburbs, private schools, urban settings, just the whole thing. So that has given me a great opportunity to meet a lot of mathematicians along the way. I have a passion for mathematics because I wasn't good at math. And so when I had a heart to specialize, like when you get into education, you specialize. I had a heart for kids that struggled with mathematics, and I just enjoyed it. I learned methods and educated myself a lot on best practices in education over the years. And the concept about math, time test, that automaticity has been around forever. So I've been in education for a really long time, and because of this experience, and because I've been at so many different types of environments, when we tend to swing in education so much, the ripple effect is not always felt immediately. And so when we start to stop using or having time tests because we're afraid of the impact it might have on students' emotional, that's going to have an academic.
Anytime we say never or always, there's something that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So then let me segue into the next question, which is, about 10 years ago, we started this, let's not give time tests anymore.
Yeah.
Let's not stress out kids. It's more important that they understand the concept, etc. What have you seen in your experience? What has been that ripple effect?
Yeah. And I'm not saying that we did not execute time tests effectively 10 years ago. I think what happened is they started saying, we're increasing kids' anxiety and everybody hates math and smart kids think they're dumb now. And it's not that is not true, right? It's how we did it. So because we tend to, we're extremes in education, we got rid of it. And so now, my current job, I oversee curriculum K-12, right? So the impact of that has been felt a lot in our high schools because the ability to work on much harder, more complex concepts
is built on the foundation of knowing your
math facts, which are just like your red words. And I'm sure you've heard this before, or you've heard me even say it before, that this is the red words of mathematics, is having this fluency with it. So what's happening is that our kids are using brain capacity and retrieval and energy to retrieve their math facts. And so the complexity in trying to get the kids to become more well-rounded mathematicians has become harder.
So I'm a language person, as you know.
Yes.
And I think of it like, if I'm trying to read the sentence, and the sentence is very simple, the blue bird flew.
Yes.
And if I'm trying to figure out what the is, and blah, blue, then I'm so busy figuring out the words that I can't make the picture in my mind. Therefore, I can't think about the effects of the bluebird flying or the cause.
Or
Why
the
did
picture.
I
Yeah,
can't
you can't even
figure
think about it.
any of that out. And what you're saying is that that's what this has done to the high school math population.
It's just made it almost disjointed or clunky.
Interesting.
We can't get to the harder things a lot of the times. And so then also what happens is now take high stakes tests. High stake tests, like an SAT, you have a calculator portion or you have a non-calculator portion. And most of the kids have a hard time on the one that is like, you should be able to do all this math in your head. And like the non-calculator.
And they're timed.
And they can't.
Right?
Not all, but more, right?
Right.
More kids can't. And it's because of the way we used to execute it. So for me and my belief, it's not that time tests are bad. It's how we do them or how we have done them in the past it did cause anxiety. It
Okay.
could have stressed kids out,
So
but
then-
it doesn't make it.
So then talk me through almost like a T-chart. Can you do like a mental T-chart? How did we do it in the past and how should we do it now? If we agree that the tool, the actual element of the time test is not the enemy, what was the how that messed it all up and how should that be done?
I mean, like, think about it. Anytime, even as an adult, when there's a time pressure or you're put on the spot to learn something, your anxiety increases and your learning decreases, right?
Yes.
So, like, around the world facts, or, everybody hated those, except the one kid that had the automaticity. So, like, those kind of games, those aren't fun.
Right. Right.
They're fun to do.
Because only the kid who knows his 9s or 7s wins, right?
And
the
they
rest
whip
of
around
us,
the room.
The rest of us are going 63.
Yeah, so you're almost like, well, like, don't play that game, you
Yeah,
know?
right.
There's other ways to do it. I think that we used to, play these games, or there was a grade attached to it, and so it was punitive. And speed is important, but it's not the end all. So, like, why does there have to be a grade attached to it at all?
Right.
But in our culture, if there isn't a grade, then there isn't.
Then there's no value.
Then sometimes parents don't see it as a valuable thing, and so we have to change that narrative. So it should be growth for themselves. Like a child, like now what I want is everybody to write down the time, and we're tracking their time and how fast they are able to do it, as opposed to trying to beat Noel or trying to beat.
So if you walked into an elementary classroom, what would the picture look like? Every kid's got a stopwatch,
If they have
every
a stopwatch, or it's projected on the
okay.
on the TV, and then they put their pencil down and they look at the time and they write it in the corner and they track their own time.
And they own it.
They own
so
it.
they're like, I got 2 more than last time.
Yeah.
Woo!
And they're
I got
just
it.
seeing
Yeah.
their own growth. Okay, the other thing that I don't think we do, and again, this is not about the standards, you have to be intentional in teaching fluency and patterns. Like, why are you testing them if you're not making it a priority? You can't leave that on parents. Flashcards aren't the way. There's books out there. Fact Fluency is one that I've had. But you have to carve that out of your instructional time in grades K through 4. Now, some people aren't willing to do that, but yet they want to do time tests. That's another thing that's not fair. So, like, if you're going to have them, old school was you'd time them, you'd give a grade to it, you'd put them on the spot. There was an increased anxiety because you played games like around the world. If your school is committed to building time in or making 10, 15 minutes a day on fluency on various games, then you have the right to then see if that is worth instructional time. If the kids are increasing their speed, then that pays dividends. But if you don't practice it, then that's not something you should assess or even take instructional time to do. And then talk about your SELs. Why do you get anxious about it? What, does this define you? Well, we are going to just try and get better. You beat your time by 1 second. That's still better.
And we often are, at least I feel like now, we're all about let's make everyone as comfortable as possible.
Yes.
And I understand that.
Agreed.
But there has to be some pressure in a safe environment. There has to be some pressure to learn and to get better and to improve.
And that piece is by totally not having that, I think we are shooting our mathematicians in the foot. I really do. And I know that not everyone agrees with me, and that's fine. It's okay.
Tomato.
Whatever. But I've seen it. And I did it too. Like when I first was in the role that I'm in, we stopped doing time tests for probably about 3-4 years, and then we're like, nope, we just have to gut it and do it differently and be intentional. And we're intentional with practicing different patterns and fluency games and whatnot. And then every child has to beat themselves. It's not a grade, it's a growth. How are they doing?
So then what do you tell parents who come to you and say, well, the teacher said that you're doing time tests this year. Mrs. D'Alessandro, that really makes my child nervous. What's the conversation you have with that parent? And how can that parent help the child at home if they're not doing flashcards?
I think there needs to be a dialogue over why fluency is important, and that it's not so much about the time as much as it is about the intentional practice with it, and how we just want your child to get better for them. And so I'm going to be honest, the more intentional you are with it and the more often you do it, you just get better, because that's how your brain works.
Because that's how learning is.
That's how learning is.
Repetition.
And so we have to have that conversation about, okay, I hear you that it makes them anxious, but I will tell you, I've also seen sophomores in high school that are still on their fingers, and that makes them more anxious.
Yeah.
And
so you can take the anxiety now, or you can have the anxiety later.
And work through it now in third grade, and so, work
because you're going to have anxiety
because
somewhere.
You're going to get it. That's what it's talking through that. So you have to be intentional with the fluency type games. Parents, partner with us. Let's do this together. The child beats themselves. And then you have 100 conversations, maybe 101, where you're like, this doesn't define you. These are your red words of math. This helps you to be able to do a math sentence. And I'm very passionate about this. I really am. This debate has been around. The next one is calculators.
Yeah.
Calculators in middle school.
Tune in for that one. That's another video.
Madon, here we go again. Anyway.
All right. So clean off your screen now. Take the tomato off the screen.
Just write angry letters to Noelle. I get up and teach.
No.
She handles all that negativity so much better.
Oh, that's hilarious. Thank you so much for joining us to hear Kathy's opinion on math fact fluency. If nothing else, this is a great video to show at a staff meeting for it to open a discussion, because the discussion among educators makes us better. Thanks so much for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe and share it with friends and colleagues and administrators. We'll see you next time.